Cheide.
In this 3-minute rules, we will be looking at the close combat phase, and in particular the sub-phase fight a round of close combat. In addition, we will look at the rules for roll to hit. All of this can be found on page 50 of the large 8th edition rulebook. In close combat now, there are really two important things we need to do. The first is we need to roll off to see if we hit the other warriors. And once we hit them, we then roll off to see if we can wound the other warriors, after which they can make saving throws for their armor saves or ward saves or any other saves. Right now, let's focus simply on the rolling to hit. In this combat now between the Empire Archers and the Dwarf Warriors, we will now be able to attack first with the Empire. They have an initiative of 3, and the Dwarf Warriors have an initiative of 2. So let's begin here. We get to make 10 attacks with the Empire Archers. Before rolling any dice, it is important that we look up and compare the weapon skills of each of these units. So for the Empire Archers, we have a weapon skill of 3, and the Dwarves are better warriors, so they have a weapon skill of 4. Once we know these values, now we may look at the to-hit chart. The first thing to do is to find the attacker's weapon skill on the left. In this case, we will say that the Empire are attacking now, and they have a weapon skill of 3. Then we find the target's weapon skill, in this case a 4, and we move to the place where those two converge. What we see here now is that in order for the Empire Archers to hit, they need to roll 4+. And 10 attacks on 4+. Not too bad then. We have a total of 4 hits out of 10. The very next step then that we need to do is to roll these to wound, and we will cover that in a later episode. Let's assume that we have rolled to wound now, and now it is the dwarf turn to attack back. So let's go compare their weapon skill to that weapon skill of the archers. So first of all, we find the attacker's weapon skill, a 4 on the left, and then we go to the point where it converges with the target's weapon skill of a 3. And what we see here is that we only require 3 pluses to hit. And that makes sense because they do in fact have a higher weapon skill. The dwarves are better fighters than these Empire Archers. And so now we are able to throw 10 dice, 10 attacks, hitting on 3 pluses. And with this we are hitting with 5 attacks. You can see in fact that a higher weapon skill did make a difference in this combat. It is sometimes the case that modifiers will apply to these to roll hits. Despite that, we may say that a natural dice of a 6 is always going to be a hit, and a natural roll of 1 is always going to be a miss. Although it looks like there are a lot of numbers here and this to-hit chart may look a little intimidating, there are in fact a few quick rules of thumb to help you determine to-hit rolls. If we look back at the chart, we see a clear pattern here. Models with equal weapon skills will always be hitting on rolls of 4+. So if it is a 3 against 3, it'll be a 4+, just as well as if it were a 7 against a 7. Furthermore, if the attacker's weapon skill is greater than the target's weapon skill, the attacker will always be hitting on 3+. So for example, a 4 against a 3 will always be 3+, 4 against 2 will be 3+, 4 against 1 will be 3+. And finally, if the attacker is attacking a target who has a higher weapon skill, the attacker will always need a 4+ to hit, unless of course the target's weapon skill is over twice that of the attacker. So for example, if the attacker has a weapon skill of 3 and the target has a weapon skill of 7, then the attacker will need 5 pluses. In summary then, the important numbers you need to be thinking about when rolling to hit are 3s, 4s, and 5s. And with that, we come to the conclusion of this 3-minute rules on the combat phase and on roll to hit. Thank you for joining us today at Grey Army Gaming, where Grey can always play.